In the presentation about active roles on the way we relate, we learned that active roles are formed by a feeling and an action, and that everything we do is based on the emotions we have. Our emotions are the base, the foundation for our actions. We also saw that the way we respond, the active roles can be constructive. So a constructive role helps me to grow myself and also to grow the other person and grows the relationship. But also it can be fragmenting. Fragmenting is draining. It drains me, it drains the other person, or sometimes it's a mix between both, between the constructive and the fragmenting. And to put an example, sometimes I may feel happy and chirpy and connected with life and joy, and someone may come into the room and I say to the person, "How are you?" So I sense a good vibe, but who knows what happened to the other person, and the other person responds in a fragmenting way. So that stimulation hits me, and we cannot not respond. So I was very happy, but then I have that response and touches me, hits me. And there is a very, very quick response that I need to find a way how to respond. And I will respond in a constructive, fragmenting, or ambivalent way. So we can respond or we can react. We use the word react when it's like that trigger us, and we respond, we react in a fragmented way. So the question is, how do I respond? And this is what is called role cascade, like a cascade of roles. It starts in one way, and then there is a process and how it ends. To make this more practical, let's have a look at the Aussie family. Parent 1 and parent 2 is Friday night, evening, and they're having a wonderful time. One feels happy and joy, and the other one is a happy dreamer because they are thinking of the next holidays. So they are enjoying, chilling out, having a good time. And while they are in that space, the child comes and in a hesitant way and a little bit abrupt way, he says to the parents, "Can I go tonight to Joe's pajama party? We are going to have a surprise party because he's 18 and we really like to have a good time." That was like a cold water, a bucket of water into what they were feeling. And that evaporates for the parents that spirit of happiness, because the request comes into their mind with, "This is exam time." And parent 1, instead of saying, "Can you tell me more about it?" he explodes. And he becomes an angry denier. "No, you cannot go." But the way the parents say it is a very crushing way. It's a put down. The child hears that and feels angry and withdraws. An angry withdrawer. He or she goes to the room. And the parent 1 continue because he's so angry in that situation. Instead of continuing with the anger, becomes a sarcastic put downer in the way that he or she is talking to the child. The child at that time feels furious, very hurt, and this hurt becomes an attacker and attacks the parent, and the parent feels the hit and becomes an offended withdrawer. "How can you treat me like that?" And feels very downhearted, feeling hurt, offended. And the child seeing that and says, "Oh, I don't want that pity," and feels exhausted, depressed, resentful, and hides. And the parent looking at that and feels powerless. What can I do? Feels lost and alone. This is what happened between the parent 1 and the child. But parallel to that, there is another story. If we remember, in one of the sessions we talk about that every relationship is part of a system. So in the system, the parent too is participating in that, and from a happy dreamer, parent two becomes a concerned child protector, because parent two sees how the parent one has shout, no, and hit verbally to the child, and becomes a concerned child protector. The parent one can't believe it, can believe that how parent two is not supporting my position. And in that case, he becomes a furious disbeliever and shouts at parent two, and the parent two doesn't shut down and becomes an angry accuser. Say, because you, and give it to parent one. And parent one becomes an angry retaliator. Remember, he was from the happy, he was angry, he was sarcastic, so his dopamine and serotonin and adrenaline was very high. So he's shouting like this, and the parent too drops and gets exhausted. It becomes a disempowered partner, and sometimes people say that disempower no one. It loses the ability of their identity. And in that feeling, the parent one feels, what is happening here? Is confused. It's totally confused. What is happening? No idea what is happening. And in that, parent two looks at that too and becomes a resentful withdrawer, and stimulates more the powerless, lost loner. So, what happened here? How did it end in these three fragmenting roles? One, exhausted, depressed, resentful. The other one, powerless, lost loner, and resentful withdrawer. What was the intention that each player has in this situation? What was the intention? What was the intention of the child wanted to go to the party? What is the intention of the parent one to say, no, you cannot go? What was the intention of the other person to protect or to have some action in this dynamic? What was their intention? But also, what was the action? This is what happened to us. That is when there is a gap between the intention and the action. And what we said in our workshop, it says that we judge ourselves based on our intentions, but we judge others for what they do. So, why did it end it like this? We have this way of feeling at the end. Did the outcome match what every one of them wanted or desired? And I will read this that is in the slide. Parent one was concerned that the child will lose study time by going to the party. Interacting like that, the child may not have gone to the party. But how much the child would have been able to study, to learn on that weekend, feeling emotionally exhausted, depressed, resentful. And something very important that sometimes we forget is where the child will hide into. And this is a very important question that we need to know first. Where do I hide? Where the other person hide, but especially our children. And would the child hide into the room and do nothing, or hide into addictions or drugs or self-harm? What is the hiding? Each one of us has a way to hide. So it's important for us to know that. But not only the child, how everyone in the family, after being participatory of the situation, have enjoyed the weekend. Sometimes we may be in a wonderful time, but reacting in a way that is fragmenting can be like to one person said, ink in water. You will have a bucket of water, clean water, we put only one drop of ink and spread. And sometimes the action we do works like that. So, is there any other way of responding? Yes, there is. And we can learn how to do that better. We can learn how to live life better. But before, we need to make an assessment. How are we living? Like a diagnosis in a medical terminology. And the role cascade is a good attempt into be able to identify how we are relating. So I invite you to use this grid and this role cascade, and you can just start with you on the left and how you're feeling. Just think of any relationship. Just think of a relationship that went pear-shaped. And the way to do that is you start with a grid and you start with yourself. Remember, a feeling and an action. You may have started in a fragmented role, like an angry shouter. But you may have started, as in our example, you may have started as a happy enjoyer. So you put happy enjoyer, and then to see what happened with the other. Is the other stimulating me? Put an arrow. And then what happened in this dynamic? And at the end, circle it. And to see this was the purpose of this cascade, to end like this. Do I like that? And of course, if I ended in a fragmented way, I would say, no, I don't. So looking back again, you can see what is the moment, we call the moment of power, that you could have learned to do that better. And this is all for now. And please contact us if you'd like to know more about this way of thinking and to be able to learn how to live life better in relationships so we can have a happier life.